Peruvian judge bars ex-president Martin Vizcarra from leaving the country for 18 months. The first cruise ship to resume operations in the Caribbean reports possible coronavirus cases aboard. And Lebanon announces a new 2-week lockdown after recording a surge in coronavirus infections. Hello, welcome to TeleSUR. I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is from the South. On Friday, a judge barred former Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra from leaving the country for 18 months, while prosecutors investigated the bribery allegations that Congress used to oust him, plunging the nation into a political crisis. Judge Maria de Los Angeles Alvarez agreed with prosecutors that Vizcarra could present a flight risk, given the seriousness of the accusations, though he will still be allowed to move freely within the country until the order expires. Prosecutors are investigating whether Vizcarra received over $630,000 while serving as governor of a small province in southern Peru in exchange for 2 construction projects. Vizcarra denied the charges on Monday before Congress, but lawmakers used a provision within the law dating back to the 19th century that allows them to remove a president on the grounds of moral incapacity. The move has sparked widespread protests by Peruvians fed up of corruption among the country's political elite and calling for a constituent assembly.
We resolve in accordance with Articles 253, 295, 20, and 52 of the Code of Criminal Procedure to declare founded the request presented by the Third Deputy, the special team of the Supra-Provincial Corporate Prosecutor's Office specialized in crimes of corruption of public officials, and to order that the accused Martin Alberto Vizcarra Cornejo be prevented from leaving the country. 2. To specify that the measure will have a duration of 18 months, imposed from the day of November 13, 2020, and will expire on May 12, 2022.
Chilean police have once again violently repressed indigenous social and trade union movements rallying in the capital's Dignity Square in Santiago. They demanded the release of political prisoners and for the government to address their economic demands. Police sought to prevent health sector workers from rallying in the square on second day of a 48-hour national strike. They protested the government's refusal to address demands, including the payment of overdue salaries and exceptional financial assistance. This in the face of the economic crisis sparked by the Covid-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, indigenous movements are commemorating 2 years since the assassination of Mapuche leader Camilo Catrillanca and demanding justice for his family and community. Also, cyclists met in Dignity Square to demand respect for their movement and to support the call to release political prisoners detained in last year's widespread anti-government protests. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro led the closure of the global meeting of the anti-imperialist working class this Friday and assured that it represents a grand alliance of progressive forces fighting for a fairer world.
After several days of meetings, exchanges and discussions, this platform launched into the world this great alliance of trade union forces, of progressive forces representing the working class, fighting for a different world, a world of equals, for a world without war, for a world where the wealth produced by the working class is issued for life, for welfare, for inclusion, for a new society.
The Venezuelan president said this platform emerged from the Sao Paulo Forum and the global meeting of the working class held in 2019.
We have contact with 61 countries. More than 200 leaders are currently participating in this video conference from 5 continents. More than 171 working class trade unions organizations from around the world. More than 48 political parties and 87 progressive movements, all connected from today in a platform of the anti-imperialist working class.
And ahead of the parliamentary elections in Venezuela, President Maduro also praised the proposal of the opposition candidates to investigate government officials in case they win the majority at the National Assembly.
There, the opposition deputies who went to the debate wished that they would come to the National Assembly to question the ministers. And, I tell you, the person that would be happiest if there were investigations, questioning of ministers and officials, is Nicolás Maduro. I agree that they should ask for explanations. And if that questioning and those investigations the National Assembly has to undertake a vote of no confidence, then so be it. I would abide by it.
Mexico City announced on Friday it will close bars and limit restaurants for 2 weeks after the number of people hospitalized for COVID-19 rose to levels not seen since August. The city closed nightclubs and bars in the spring, but later allowed some to reopen. However, Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum pointed out that many establishments had not enforced sanitary and social distance measures and has become sites of very high transmission. The city of almost 9 million inhabitants has never been under a strict lockdown, but businesses, museums, parks, and shopping malls have been under capacity restrictions for months. More than 3,000 people are currently hospitalized in the capital, though clinics are still at only about half capacity. The number of COVID-19 tests conducted in the city will increase to as many as 10,000 per day, which is still far below other nations, but higher than other cities in the country. The first cruise to resume sailing in the Caribbean has now reported several possible coronavirus cases aboard. The Sea Dream Yacht Club cruise was the first to return to the Caribbean since the COVID-19 pandemic shut down operations in March. It was meant to demonstrate that increased safety protocols, including regular testing aboard the ship, could allow cruise voyages to take place during the pandemic. Instead, one passenger fell ill on Wednesday, forcing the ship to return to Barbados, where all 53 passengers and 66 crew were tested. So far, a total of 7 passengers have tested positive for COVID-19, according to 2 passengers on the ship. The Sea Dream Yacht Club said in a press release that its guests had received assumptive positive results through preliminary rapid COVID-19 tests, but did not specify the number who had done so. Passengers who test negative twice will be allowed to disembark the ship and fly home on Saturday. Tropical storm Yota, the 30th named storm of this year's Atlantic hurricane season, has formed and could follow ETA's deadly path in Central America this weekend. Hurricane experts were closely watching the Caribbean, where tropical storm Yota formed on Friday afternoon. Forecasters warned that Yota could power up quickly to major hurricane strength as it approaches Central America late Sunday or Monday. And it could wreak more havoc in a region where people are still grappling over the aftermath of ETA. The National Hurricane Center in Miami said Yota could bring dangerous winds, storm surges, and as much as 30 inches of rainfall to northern Nicaragua and Honduras. The Dominican Republic's Emergency Operations Center has put 24 provinces on alert due to heavy rains that have displaced over 7,000 people, isolated 13 communities, and destroyed homes and infrastructure. The National Met Office reported that a tropical wave or possible hurricane would affect the occurrence of downpours, thunder, lightning, and gusts of wind in the southeast, southwest, central mountain range, and border areas of the country. Most of the country is on yellow alert for possible flash floods due to the overflow of rivers and streams, as well as landslides. Deforestation in Brazil's Amazon increased in October for the first time in 4 months, according to government data released on Friday. The destruction of the world's largest rainforest remains high under President Jair Bolsonaro, who has weakened environmental protection enforcement. In October, deforestation rose 50% from the previous year to 836 square kilometers, according to preliminary data from the government Space Research Agency. Destruction in 2020 continues to be far higher than in the years before Bolsonaro took office in 2019. Bolsonaro has called for more farming and mining in the Amazon to lift the region out of poverty, he says, which environmental advocates say is emboldening Brazilians to cut down the forest. We'll take a short break now. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's continue with news. In the United States, Democrat Joe Biden won the states of Arizona and Georgia this Friday in the presidential race to secure a total of 306 electoral college votes against President Donald Trump's 232. This represents an exact flip of the final vote in 2016, when Trump won 306 electoral votes, while Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton won 232. Popular vote-wise, Biden won 77.5 million votes, or 50.8%, compared to the 72.3 million, representing 47.4%, who voted for Trump, which is an advantage of 5 million votes. Biden's win in Arizona represents a flipping of the state to Democrat for the first time since 1996, when Bill Clinton won the state's support for his White House bid. The tied race in Arizona ended with a lead of more than 11,000 ballots for Biden, giving him the state's 11 electoral votes. Meanwhile, President Trump won North Carolina to take 15 more electoral college votes. Despite Biden's overwhelming victory, Trump continues to refuse to acknowledge the defeat. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has described the recent presidential election as the most secure in the history of the country. According to a statement from the department's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. The statement challenges President Trump's claims of widespread electoral fraud and other voting irregularities. The nation's election agencies, along with nearly a dozen federal officials, have expressed the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of the elections. And in his first public comments since November 5th, Trump addressed the media on COVID-19 vaccine progress, while stressing that his administration will not go into a lockdown. Trump acknowledged the possibility of a new administration in January, but stopped short of announcing a formal concession to President-elect Biden.
The administration will not be going to a lockdown. Hopefully, whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be? I guess time will tell. But I can tell you, this administration will not go to a lockdown.
And the post-election tension is mounting in the U.S. Washington, D.C. is the epicenter of the pro- and anti-Donald Trump mobilizations. A crowd of Trump supporters has already gathered in front of the White House prior to various rallies scheduled for the weekend, including the Million MAGA March. Right-wing groups calling themselves March for Trump, Stop the Steal, and Women for America First are organizing a demonstration on Freedom Plaza Saturday at noon. Biden supporters and groups from the Black Lives Matter movement have announced counter-protests, with fears that there could be clashes with extremists. China has condemned the U.S. government for abusing state power to oppress Chinese companies. The statements come after President Trump banned investment in firms that he claims aid China's military.
On the basis of political motivations, the U.S. government slanders China's military-civilian integrated development policy, abusing state power to arbitrarily oppress Chinese companies. These seriously violate the principles of market competition as well as international trade rules, and severely undermines normal trade and investment cooperation between China and the U.S. This measure not only severely harms the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies, it also hurts the interests of international investors, including those from the U.S. China urges the U.S. to view China's military civilian integrated development policy correctly, stop its wrong behavior of using the pretext of national security to recklessly oppress Chinese companies, and withdraw the relevant wrong decisions. We will resolutely protect the legitimate rights of Chinese companies.
And the Chinese Foreign Ministry has also congratulated U.S. President-elect Joe Biden and his Vice President Kamala Harris for their victory in last week's elections.
We have been paying close attention to the domestic and international response to this U.S. presidential election. We respect the choice of the U.S. people. We express our congratulations to Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris. At the same time, we understand the result of the U.S. election will be determined in accordance with U.S. laws and procedures.
We have more stories coming up. Stay with us. Joining us again. Lebanon has announced a new 2-week lockdown after recording a surge in coronavirus infections. Under the new lockdown, people have been called to stay at home during the day unless they have been granted an exception. Only cars with certain number plates will be allowed on the roads for specific days. The first lockdown was imposed in March and was gradually lifted as summer arrived. The country has recorded more than 100,000 COVID-19 cases, and almost 800 people have died from the virus.
We were deployed since this morning along the seaside road near the Corniche, and we put the stripes. There was a large number of people who began to gather in the morning, and we asked them to leave, as the Corniche is supposed to be closed.
Pakistan's government has accused the Indian military of killing civilians living along the line of control in the Indian-controlled Kashmir territory.
The Indians have again resorted to targeting innocent civilians living in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. They had an incident a couple of days back inside India. They took some casualties, and as usual, they have again tried to externalize their internal problems. They have escalated on the line of control. We have given them a very befitting reply. There have been massive losses on Indian side in men and material. But the most unfortunate part is that Indians continue to target civilian population.
Pakistan is presenting this dossier to the UN, OIC, P5 countries, and others. We expect the international community to play its role for peace and stability in the region by A, compelling India to immediately halt its state sponsorship of terrorism in Pakistan, B, bring to justice all those involved in financing and supporting terrorism inside Pakistan according to relevant domestic and international laws.
The president of Guinea, Alpha Conde, has denied accusations that the recent arrests of several opposition leaders and activists who opposed his decision to run for a third term are politically motivated.
Anyone, whether minister, prime minister, president, or ordinary citizen who violates the law must answer to justice. That's all. There's no witch hunt in Guinea. No one is targeted except people who are accused of having ordered it because we have arrested people. It's up to the court to decide.
The Saharawi Arab Democratic Republic has issued a statement claiming to have successfully conducted artillery attacks against the military bases of the Moroccan army. The political organization of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army announced that several enemy sites have been attacked by its fighters along the Moroccan Wall of Shame. This was in response to the military operation launched by Moroccan forces in violation of the ceasefire agreement. The statement added that a detachment of the Saharawi People's Liberation Army has responded to the Moroccan aggression to protect Saharawi civilians who were protesting for freedom and independence. Ethiopian refugees have entered Sudan's Gedaref state, fleeing the fighting in the northern Tigray region and reporting artillery bombardments and airstrikes.
They are abusing us. We came with 5 to 6 children on our backs. The children don't have anything to drink and eat. All of us are suffering. We don't have clothes of our own. What clothes we have worn were borrowed from neighbors. We want the Tigray and the government to look after us.
This is the reason why all these people have left their villages, left everyone with nothing. All these people do not even have money to buy food. The banks are closed. If I asked anyone, none of them has the price of a bread loaf because the banks have closed for a long time. Even our people in Sudan could not help us because the bank is closed and there is no phone network. The people from Tigray are tired.
Meanwhile, Ethiopia's Tigray rebels have fired rockets at 2 airports in the neighboring Amhara region as a conflict threatens to spread into other parts of the country. The rebels, in a statement, said such strikes will continue unless the attacks against us stop. The federal government confirmed that the airports in Gondar and Bahir were damaged in the strikes late on Friday. The fighting that erupted in the northern Tigray region on November 4th has reportedly killed hundreds on both sides of the conflict and sent over 17,000 refugees fleeing into neighboring Sudan. In other news, Italian authorities have extended a partial lockdown as hospitals struggle to handle a surge of new admissions of COVID-19 patients. The regions of Italy that include the cities of Naples and Florence have been declared coronavirus red zones. The director of the National Health Institute, Gianni Rezza, said the stricter measures were justified by an increase in hospitalizations. Italy's rate of new confirmed cases reached 650 per 100,000 people. The Italian government is imposing levels of restrictions under a color-coded system, with red as the least restrictive, orange in the middle, and yellow as the most serious level. Regions designated as red zones are subject to partial lockdowns, under which only grocery stores, pharmacies, newsstands, and other shops deemed necessities may remain open. Vietnam is preparing a mass evacuation as it braces for Typhoon Vamco, which killed dozens in the Philippines. As Typhoon Vamco barrels closer to the country, authorities have ordered hundreds of thousands of residents to evacuate the central coastal region. The region between Quang Binh and Quang Ngai, the provinces, has already been hit by the 2 typhoons over the past few weeks. Prior to that, it endured weeks of heavy rains, floods, and landslides, beginning October 6, that killed hundreds and displaced thousands. Vamco is currently raging in the South China Sea, with winds of 144 miles per hour. Experts predict it will make landfall in Vietnam near Da Nang on Saturday or early Sunday. According to a report from the International Energy Agency, global demand for oil will not completely recover, even if a vaccine against COVID-19 is distributed worldwide. The agency said that recovery might not be achieved until well into 2021. That forecast is based on the positive increase in crude oil prices this week, after it was reported that one of the vaccine candidates in clinical trials has proven to be 90% effective. The monthly report from the Paris-based agency says that it is too soon to know how and when vaccines will allow people to return to their normal lives, and a significant impact is not expected within the first semester of 2021. With that, we end this news brief. But remember, you can find all of our stories by checking our website, telesurenglish.net. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.